И остальные, все остальные, если что, пушим так ожидать.
Только
я выйду.
30 подожми сюда, 3 сюда,
Банана.
Давай, я выйду.
А я боком встану и сдохну за один шут.
Так,
Виль в стреле будешь играть. Ну пушим.
А им Марика.
Видите, ты хотя бы развес.
Не то, что тебе.
Если Виль, то тут играть, да, все остальные вот так идем пушим. Вам надо убить этого типа, который здесь.
Перекатывай.
а там никого нет.
Ну, убивайте его, убейте танки. Поехали.
На банане тоже никого нет.
Я с... А нет, вот это ничего, пускай идет по первой, и все остальные сюда погнали по скатам. Эти танки можно сюда выставляться. Я прокачу. Пошли все убивать коней и дети. А, не знаю, они перепушены. Тут прямка. Когда мы начнем здесь, сейчас этой фигней, потом катим, инбок сейчас развалит его спину, он еще башню ворочит, и он проиграет.
Ну сколько их там подъедете?
Вот тут не умирайте, контрольте.
Ко мне помощь.
Подышайте.
Ну, сейчас больницу зашел, не видел.
Так подъедьте вот эти БКшки.
Расходку у кого?
Подъедьте, Вид, подойди, дай еще.
Да я еду.
У меня, Вид,
Похоже на то, что тут вся команда.
Да, вся команда, мне тоже кажется, вся команда.
Да нет,
Он даже не смотрит на меня.
Ну да, пускай эти подъезжайте, все команды пойдем пушить. Пошли пушить, да, не херню делать, нет кату, это не позиция. Гол!
Тут не вся команда.
Я понимаю, так убивайте, он один.
Они сюда едут, они сюда.
Да, пошлите оттуда, пошли. Нет, просто убьем.
Я не знаю, что делать.
Я не знаю, да, Юля.
с уважением.
Я заберу.
Я просто видел, что это Юля.
Руха минус. Гол с этой позиции, снизу.
У нас базу берут.
Блять, не мог на базу пошли.
Там два бата и бэшка.
Я тоже на базу.
Я тоже на базу.
Ягу не оттянем?
Не, я не оттяну. Да там два бата всего, захвати бэшку.
Экстрим, оставайся тут, Экстрим, ты не нужен.
Три танка хватит.
А им, ой, Экстрим, ты не нужен.
База горит.
Ну, вот один, они могут раз.
Стрим один разряжен.
Поехали.
Его ты видишь.
В атаку его сейчас.
Мы 4-4 играем. Вот, куда ты
Мне Димонов подпирает.
Я заберу его.
Я заберу. Спасибо. Бадный КД, забейте. Погнали больше убивать.
Когда он?
Миго, пошли на баш.
Не мог в атаку пошли, да такой. Откроем? Чего ты рываешься?
Мне шал, бьешь мою?
Не трогайте бэшку 1700, у меня 10 секунд до фугаса. Не трогайте ее. Прошу 1300 оставь.
He says that. When he was 83, he could still skip. He says that. When he was 83, he could still skip. So really, he can't do it. Having somebody like that, the toughest thing I went through was having somebody like that. The toughest thing I went through was this antitrust lawsuit. Very predictable. And he was a great counsel. Very predictable during all of that stuff. So getting somebody who's successful in another domain. So getting somebody who's successful in another domain type mindset. Anyway, for me, that was a huge gift. Mindset. Anyway, for me, that was a huge gift.
To be here with you, and thank you to Village Global for be here with you, giving everybody the opportunity to spend Village Global for the morning with giving everybody the opportunity to spend.
Thank you. Good job. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia and Bill. What a stimulating conversation. Thank you, Julia and Bill. We now have some time to stimulate outside, so it's a beautiful day. We now have some time to been to our events, so before know that we have some those of you who've been to our events at different tables before know that we have some near and dear to Bill cards at different tables around some of the giving back the Gates near and dear to Bill and Microsoft. Julia's conversation, giving back the Gates Foundation, have a conversation around those topics. Stand around those tables, grab a question card, otherwise hang out, grab some food. Stand around those tables, grab a question card, otherwise hang out, grab some food. You can also check out the science exhibits here free of charge to meet. You can also check out the science exhibits here free of charge. So on behalf of all of us at Village Global, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. So on behalf of all of us at Village Global, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. We're going to go ahead and get started right on time. My name is Ben. You guys get started right on time. My name is Ben Kesnok. I'm a partner here at Village Global. Welcome to another edition of Lessons from Luminaries, brought to you by Village Global. Another edition of Lessons from Luminaries, brought to you by World Famous Village Museum, the Exploratorium. Thrilled to host you here at this stunningly gorgeous San Francisco day. On this Village Global, stunningly gorgeous San Francisco day. Venture capital. Village Global, as many of you know, is an early stage venture capital firm backed Jeff Bezos, Sarah Blakely, and indeed Bill Gates. Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Sarah Blakely. I think Bill Gates being with us here this morning is a testament to just how I think Bill Gates being with us here this morning supporting the next generation of innovators. Luminaries are, many of whom, of course, are supporting the next generation. We have about 80 to 100 world-class founders here with us this morning. We have about 80 to 100 world-class founders here with us this morning, and I want to give a special shout-out to the founders. Special news regarding a new vintage of Network Catalyst. Next week we'll be announcing some special news regarding for this morning's event. Of course, we have our For this morning's event, of course, we have our LP, Bill Gates, in conversation with entrepreneur and friend of Village Global, Julia Hartz. Julia is co-founder, CEO of Eventbrite, and recently took the company public on the New York Stock Exchange. But 3/4 of the way through the conversation, they'll stop the conversation, and folks can line up at these two stationary mics to ask questions. Please keep your question very brief. And feel free to tweet anything from the conversation. You can tag us at Village Global. At the conclusion of their conversation, I'll be back with a short announcement, and then we'll break to the beautiful area outside for a reception. Without further ado, please welcome Julia Hartz and Bill Gates.
Thank you all for coming, and this is a pretty epic location.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You have the better view.
Yeah, the bridge looks good.
Well, thank you, Bill, for taking the time this morning. Leading up to this great opportunity and honor to interview Bill, my team and I have spent a couple of weeks just going deep, and it's been just fascinating. It's actually been really helpful for my team as we've been thinking about 2019 planning, which I'm sure you don't miss much, but probably still do to some extent. And we have been thinking about themes around creating long-term value and really about the importance of sustainable business and philanthropy. And so today we're going to take a little bit of a journey through the different parts of how you've made this world a better place. And I wanted to start with really acknowledging the entrepreneurs and founders in this room and how much collective blood, sweat, and tears we've given to our companies. As the founder and operating CEO for 25 years of one of the most prolific and valuable startups, I wanted to start with your perspective on the important choices that you made during your tenure at Microsoft and how you view those choices as they've related to the long-term growth story of the company.
Well, Microsoft was very lucky in that we're not a capital-intensive business. It was financed by money I'd made in high school. And I did the school scheduling, and there was all sorts of software things you could do to make money fairly easily in those days, because the number of people who knew how to do software things was very small. We did take an investment. We sold 5% of the company at a valuation of $20 million. Took in $1 million from a venture firm, Dave Marquardt's venture firm, just because we wanted to have him, actually it was more the senior people, but it ended up being him, advise us about various choices we had to make. And those early days, because we knew that software was this magical thing, and it was enabled because the chip was magical. And weirdly, people didn't understand that Moore's law essentially said that computing power would be infinite. And so the best way to think about it was to say, okay, software would be the limiting factor towards any sort of digitally assisted activity. And we thought of ourselves as a software company. We ended up competing with companies that were single product companies. So like, I wonder if anybody's here has ever heard of like Ashton Tate, or has anybody ever heard of Ashton Tate? Okay, good. There was a great article where I gave a hardcore speech about our database, and it said Gates says Ashton Tate never existed, but I didn't actually say that. I just said that they might cease to exist at some point. Anyway, very competitive. There was a spreadsheet called 123, a word processor called WordPerfect. So these were single product companies. And in terms of really building your engineering tools, your international distribution, sales, consulting, how you work with corporate Salesforce, if you thought of yourself as a software company and a platform company, it was very different than saying, okay, I have 123, which was a Lotus spreadsheet product. So we didn't fail for ambition, but then the intensity of executing on it was super, super hard.
When you think about the people who helped you, really get Microsoft into a scaling zone beyond your founding team, can you reflect on one of the most important hires you made that maybe we don't know about, but would give us insight into the early days?
Yeah, so the one you probably do know about is Steve Ballmer. Steve was with me at Harvard. He went off and worked he actually graduated, went to Procter & Gamble, and then he was going to Stanford Business School. And I had so overcommitted the firm because I was always worried we had lots of customers go bankrupt. And I was hiring people who had children, they were moving to the city. And so I'd always do this calculation of, okay, do I have enough money that if nobody pays me, can I pay the employees for over a year? And so I realized I needed somebody who could hire people and maybe even tell me not to sell things that weren't done yet. So I convinced Steve to drop out of business school. He came on and he was extremely good at hiring people.